Next-gen CPUs and GPUs are just around the corner, and while they're no doubt exciting, not everyone can afford them. In fact, if you only have around $500 to spend on a gaming PC, you might feel like building a powerful system is out of reach. Enter
the second-hand market.
In a world plagued by absurdly priced GPUs, but blessed by a trove of used graphics cards left over from the desktop PC boom of 2020, the second-hand market has become a strong consideration for those on a tight budget who need to stretch their dollar as far as possible. $500 is a popular target for a gaming PC because it's a price point that's within reach for a lot of people. It's also close to what modern consoles go for these days, so it's no surprise that there are a ton of YouTubers showing off their best or fastest $500 gaming builds here in 2024. But the vast majority of these videos feature new hardware at new retail pricing. Buying pre-owned hardware can give budget builders a ton of bang for the buck that would otherwise only be attainable for double or triple the cost when buying new. That being said, there are many things to consider when thrift shopping for hardware so that you don't get burned. Today I'll be clearing up some of the uncertainties surrounding the secondhand market to help you decide if it's the right choice for you. Afterwards, I'll demonstrate the seriously impressive performance you can achieve by building a gaming PC from used parts for just $500. Many would argue that the big three downsides to buying used parts are seller credibility, warranty, and extensive or reckless use of components by their previous owner. While all of these points can sound scary, there are ways to mitigate the risks associated with them with a well-informed approach and a little common sense. For starters, I'll be using eBay to browse all the parts for this build, and for the record, this video is not sponsored by eBay in any way, and I've never had any kind of affiliation or relationship with them. I doubt they even know I exist. But over the years, the site's come a long way in terms of buyer protection, offering refunds on damaged or faulty items within 30 days of receipt, even if the seller doesn't offer returns. Of course, there's also the standard seller ratings from buyers to help you assess a seller's credibility. These protections distinguish eBay from sites like Craigslist that have virtually no buyer protections or guarantees apart from the old "trust me bro," which is why I typically recommend against them. It's also extremely important to read any seller notes for an item, which details things like its condition, whether it's missing any parts or accessories, and pretty much anything else the buyer should be aware of before buying. If a part you receive isn't to your liking for a reason that's clearly stated in the seller notes, there's no guarantee you'll be able to return it, so make sure to read carefully. Warranties are a bit trickier. Should an item you purchase stop working or functioning properly after the 30-day return window, your options will depend heavily on the manufacturer's warranty policy. For example, bigger brands like Asus, Gigabyte, and MSI have a 3-year warranty on their GPUs that's not tied to the original buyer but to the item's serial number. So you should still be able to contact the manufacturer and issue an RMA, assuming the card was first purchased within the last 3 years. Your mileage will vary from item to item, so if you're concerned about receiving customer support down the line, it's recommended to check the manufacturer warranty policies of what you're buying. But that still doesn't address the possibility that a used CPU or GPU may have been put through the ringer by its previous owner. Running a part at a high voltage overclock or using it to mine crypto for a number of years adds wear and tear that can potentially shorten its lifespan. However, the consensus seems to be that routine maintenance and proper cooling play a larger factor in a part's longevity, much like how the quality of a used car depends heavily on how well it's been maintained. Unfortunately, a computer part's history can be hard to gauge, with CPUs and graphics cards typically being the biggest concern, as they're prone to abuse more than their peers and are usually the most expensive parts in a build. When purchasing such an item through eBay, I'd recommend thoroughly stress testing it upon arrival for any signs of performance degradation or faulty behavior, checking for abnormalities in advertised clock speeds and temperatures. If anything's off, send it back immediately for a refund. For graphics cards specifically, also inspect the cooler for cleanliness and any signs of unexpected damage. There's always the nightmare scenario of having a part kick the bucket right after the 30-day return window and warranty period expire, but that's usually a sign of extremely bad luck, so if that ever happens to you, maybe don't leave the house that day. Ultimately, nothing beats the peace of mind and reliability of buying your parts retail, making it a sensible option on any budget. On the flip side, thrift shopping through buyer-protected websites and following best practices can greatly increase your odds of making a safe secondhand purchase. Factor in the compelling price to performance of used hardware right now, especially GPUs, and going this route might be worth it for those willing to go deal hunting and take on some calculated risks. That brings us to the parts I've sourced for our $500 gaming machine, starting with this Air 100 Micro ATX mid-tower case from Montech. I'm partial to the superfine mesh front panel, 4 pre-installed 120mm fans, and the 100% positive seller feedback with hundreds of reviews. The seller notes state that one of the case feet was broken in the past but has since been repaired, and there's even an accompanying photo which strikes me as a sign of transparency from the seller. While the case is only $35, shipping adds an extra $14. Don't panic though. This is an outlier due to the size and weight of the item, and the total shipping cost for this entire build was only $33, which is very reasonable given our overall savings. Still, it's a good reminder to take note and order items that ship from within your country to minimize shipping costs. For our CPU, we have the Intel Core i3-12100F that I found for $15 under current retail at just $70. Plus, it's bundled with a low-profile cooler from Arctic, which is likely a step up from stock and adds some breathing room for our slim budget. With 4 cores and 8 threads, the 12th gen processor is regarded as one of the top gaming CPUs for under $100, with its closest competitor at this price point being the Ryzen 5 5500. While users performing heavily multi-threaded workloads like video editing may find the 6-core Ryzen chip more suitable, the 12100F's superior single-core performance makes it a touch faster in gaming, and it supports PCIe Gen 5 and 4 versus Gen 3 on the 5500. I initially considered the Ryzen 5 5600 as it's the most powerful of the three, but determined that its additional cost would eat up too much of our GPU budget. And just because it's a slightly newer chip, I probably would have gone with the Core i3-13100F had I found it bundled with a cooler for the same price as the 12100F, never mind the fact that it offers little to no gaming improvement over its successor. Housing the CPU is an MSI Pro B660MA CEC Wi-Fi that I came across for just $70, saving us $20 versus a new board. With DDR4 support, the B660 platform is affordable yet scalable, supporting up to the latest 14th gen CPUs with a BIOS update. This provides a nice upgrade path, assuming Intel can sort out the serious instability issues they're currently experiencing with their high-end 13th and 14th gen CPUs, but we'll just sweep that under the rug for now. This Micro ATX LGA 1700 board is pretty solid for the price, featuring dual-channel memory with 4 DDR4 DIMM slots, PCIe Gen 4 graphics and storage, and Intel Wi-Fi 6. The seller mentions that the board may have some minor wear and tear, but is fully functional otherwise with no missing parts. For memory, I found a 16GB kit of DDR4 3200 speed RAM from HP for $20, less than half the cost of a new kit. It's hard to say when 16 gigs will be replaced as the widely accepted minimum for gaming PCs, but for now it's plenty to work with unless you're multitasking extensively. Our storage solution is a Toshiba XG6 NVMe drive with a 512 gig capacity. It features a convenient M.2 form factor, and its PCIe Gen 3 speeds are more than enough for a budget gaming rig. At $28, this part only saves us about $12. Realistically, I would recommend just buying a new SSD, but for the goal of today's video, these modest savings do add up to help us hit the price target for this build. For just $50, this RM750E 750-watt PSU from Corsair is one of the best deals here with its $100 MSRP. Even when buying pre-owned, it's never worth skimping on a power supply, since a bad or faulty unit can damage your whole computer in a worst-case scenario. Corsair is a reputable PSU maker, and this unit seems to include all of its original cables and retail packaging. 750 watts is also the minimum required spec for our graphics card, the XFX Speedster Kick 319 Radeon RX 6700 XT Black. The card I found is one of many 6700 XTs priced at or around $230, which is possibly the most frames per dollar you can find on the GPU market right now. NVIDIA's RTX 3070 comes very close in performance, leading slightly in some titles and being the clear leader in ray tracing. It's also priced slightly more than the 6700 XT for around $20 to $30 more on average, making either option a fair choice depending on your needs and budget. Given the lower price point and greater rasterization performance, I'm fully sold on the 6700 XT for this build, and buying used is truly the only way to cram this much power into a $500 PC. In fact, among the top 10 YouTube search results for the best $500 gaming PC in 2024, most of the videos which feature new hardware range from using an RX 6600 down to integrated graphics, while the few pre-owned build videos use up to a GTX 1080 Ti. The RX 6600 and GTX 1080 Ti are closely matched competitors, and while they're still viable cards for 1080p gaming, the RX 6700 XT runs at a whole other level of performance, tackling 1080p and 1440p with confidence. I found a great benchmark comparison from the YouTube channel Gaming Bench that pits the 6700 XT against the 6600. Across the 10 AAA games tested, Gaming Bench shows the 6700 XT dominating, delivering up to 50 more frames per second than the 6600 at 1080p in games like The Witcher 3 and Far Cry 6. At 1440p, it runs roughly 40 frames per second higher in God of War and 30 frames per second higher in a breadth of other titles. In more than one instance, the 6600 struggles to run certain games above 60 FPS, while the 6700 XT does it with ease. I'll leave a link to Gaming Bench's video in the description if you want to see more, but the point is that budget builders with $500 to spend can get up to 50 to 60% more performance on the secondhand market. That doesn't mean you should ignore the downsides of pre-owned hardware and the risks associated with it. I just think that anyone searching for $500 build guides should be aware that a build like this is an option. That way they can make the decision that works best for them. But that is going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Before you go, toss a like on the video and get subscribed for more tech content on the way. And please click that notification bell, or else YouTube will make sure that you never see one of my videos again. As always, guys, have a good one, and I will see y'all in the next video.